Well, yes. You touched on one of the two key candidates that must be exposed for what they're doing or persuaded to strengthen or straighten their course of policy. And one of them is definitely Saudi Arabia. But the other one is Pakistan. And Pakistan, I'm referring to that establishment, which is like a dark box. Many people around the world do not know what they are doing, but in my limited access to some of the insiders in Pakistan, the so-called ISI, that Pakistani intelligence, which is really the one that created Taliban. And I believe they continue in some way or another to feed and to support and to reinforce some of these forces. And therefore, the Saudis and the ISI service in Pakistan must be exposed for what they're doing. And I hope that will be done. And I am willing to work with you and to work with anybody in the U.S. to make at least an attempt to contain these seeds or these institutions that are feeding extremism in the Middle East and in the Muslim world.
Saad, when bin Laden was assassinated at the beginning of this month, I said something to the effect that Al-Qaeda was ideologically dead before bin Laden was assassinated and it was killed by the Arab Spring. Is that too hopeful an interpretation?
Well, you know, I believe that it is the beginning of the end of the Al-Qaeda and the other extreme movement. I think democracy is definitely the antidote against extremism. And I believe that the Arab Spring have moved, some people have probably announced it prematurely, maybe, the death of Al-Qaeda as a result of the Arab Spring. I think these kind of groups do not die a sudden death. It is a protracted illness, but I believe that we need to do more to at least have a mercy killing or a more expedited to these groups.
Saad, we have another friend of yours in the audience with us today, a young man by the name of Ahmed Salah.
Yes.
And I know that when you returned to Tahrir Square, he was already there, and I think he shepherded you around when you returned to Egypt. And he was one of the young leaders of the January 25th revolution. He was almost killed in this revolution. I think he was hit by a rubber bullet and rendered unconscious for a while, but he survived, and he's still fighting now, and he's trying to make sure that things go well in Egypt. It's now my opportunity, this is my chance to call on Ahmed maybe to say a few words to you and also pose a question. Ahmed.
Hello, Dr. Saad. It's really great to have you here with us today. I mean, I'm always honored to always say that I consider myself your disciple. And you are always my great role model in life. I just wanted to ask you a question because this thing is really on my mind a lot. It is getting more and more obvious for more and more people that the SCAF, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, is not really standing on the side of the revolution. And I have this idea about building some consensus on trying to offer immunity, an offer of immunity to the SCAF and the military in general for everything that is before the 25th of January. How can we do this so that we try to save ourselves all that is happening now with us trying to bring about a civilian presidential council and the SCAF resisting and sometimes even using the very hard, force in attacking the civilian demonstrators and even using deadly force, as we have seen before a few times, resulting in the murder of several protesters. Thank you.
Right. Ahmed, it is always a pleasure to connect with you. Ahmed, when I returned to Egypt in the middle of the revolution, and my wife took me directly from the airport to Tahrir Square, Ahmed was with us. And he guided me into Tahrir Square. And it was one of those, again, epical moments that you see two generations of freedom fighters, one young, one old. Even though he surprised me, he was a little bit older than I thought, but nevertheless, it was a pleasure to be guided and through him, to meet the younger generation of the Tahrir revolutionary. Well, we have to keep putting pressure. Revolutions do not succeed by themselves. Democracy does not come by itself. It needs continuous nurturing, continuous feeding. And I'm returning to Egypt tomorrow. I will look forward to meeting with you again when I return to Egypt. And let us, along with other freedom fighters, and I know you have few of them with you in Dallas, and I hope we all can meet, we can get together next week or in a few days and do our best to organize and to pressure. I believe that the young revolutionaries are capable of putting pressure, are capable of going back and staging another revolution. And I heard that Tahrir Square is going to still be there. It is not going to remove. It's becoming a shrine now for all freedom fighters. It is competing with the pyramids. It is competing with the Karnak, but it is really the future. And therefore, let us try to do our best to keep that revolution, democratic revolution going. Because there is always, I'm always reminded of how the Russian Revolution was stolen between February 1914 and October 19. In 8 months, a revolution was hijacked. Same thing happened in Iran. Again, between January 1979 and November of the same year, the young revolution of Iran was taken over by the mullahs. So let us fight to protect that revolution.
I saw You know, Saad, I hope that if Tahrir Square is going to become like the pyramids, it might help revive the tourism industry. Everybody should go and visit Tahrir Square. I saw a hand all the way in the back there. I want to recognize somebody in the audience. Jim has just given me instructions that we're running out of time, and this will have to be the last question. Yes.
Hi, Carl. Hi, Dr. Saad. This is Ahmed Samir.
Hello.
From Egypt, too. Carl.
Hi, how are you? I didn't know you were here.
It's nice to see Ahmed there. It's also nice to see Samuel Tadros there. Hi, you guys. Dr. Saad, we met last week in a discussion about the next election in Egypt. And we both agreed that we don't have a good environment to hold the election soon. First, I would like to say to you and to Majid that the people who are staying in Tora prison now is the leaders of the previous regime. And we did something. We accomplished something, actually. But what I wanted to say is, do you expect that the military council will continue protect the revolution as they say? The second part of my question is about the Muslim Brotherhood. And you've always been writing a lot of articles trying to convince us as a young liberals groups that if we give them the chance to get a democratic regime, a democratic system, they will be Democrats. Do you still believe that? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your question. Let me just make another interesting observation. The cell block I was in between 2000 and 2003 is now hosting, if you wish, or sheltering 3 of the people who officiated over my detention. And that is a former Minister of the Interior, General Al-Adli, and the 2 sons of Mubarak, Gamal and Ala Mubarak. This is, again, one of those historical ironies, is that how history has its own way of cunning, its own way of displaying the, shall we say, the contradictions of our times. So even though I hope that they will get a fair trial, but it is something to note that tyranny, no matter how brutal, no matter how long or protracted, must come to an end. And now we have to deal with the Muslim Brothers and other Islamists. They also were victims of previous regimes, and we have to find a way to deal with them. Democracy has to be protected, has to be guarded, and we have to, I'm willing to fight them as much as as you said, lobbied for their inclusion, but I'm also willing, and God helps us, to fight back to protect that revolution. If they want to be Muslim Democrats like AKP in Turkey, they are welcome. If they are going to be exclusionists, and if they are going to try to hijack the revolution, we'll have to fight them. And that is the only way. We have to, young Democrats, middle-aged Democrats, old Democrats like myself, will have to clean our guns and face them if they do not show sincere commitment to democracy and to the rules of the game.